Once upon a time, there was a four-story building, and each floor was 3 rooms wide. And on the top floor, there was always parties going on, and they always had a bunch of bright lights shining in their windows because they liked to have Christmas lights and fun stuff. Um, Down on the next floor, there was somebody who just kind of lived underneath the party people, and he was okay with that. I think these are all like one place. Like each of these, because these all have the same lights inside. So it's 4 apartments just in a tall building in a stack. And there's the party folk, and I think there's 3 people renting rooms in here. And then there's 3 people in here, and each room is a bedroom, right? So then this guy is underneath this guy. And so he listens to this guy a lot, and he's like not mad about it. But this guy is fucking so angry about it. And he comes over to him sometimes, and he's like, hey man, we gotta tell those people shut up. We gotta go upstairs. We gotta knock on their door. And then this guy's like, no, come on, they're just having fun. And he's like, I have to be up at 6 a.m. every day. And the motherfucker above me is blasting fucking Fall Out Boy until like 9 p.m. And this guy's like, 9 p.m. isn't even late. He's like, it's late to me. I need to be in bed. These people under here, they often hear these 3 fighting. And these ones are a pretty peaceful family of 4. And there's 2 kids who share a bedroom. Then there's the mom and dad who share a bedroom. And then the 3rd bedroom they use for other stuff, like storage and hanging out in. There's also living rooms, like on the other side, but the bedrooms are what's facing this street. So then, this guy is, how many people are living here? I think it's 3 people again, because this place is the kind of place where you're gonna want to have like roommates. So, these guys don't like living underneath kids, and they're always like, man, I wish I lived on the top floor where everybody's partying all the time. And these guys, they have to take an elevator down to get out. And there's one day they pass someone from the bottom floor on the street, and they're like, how's it going? And it's, I'm talking about this guy, the one who's always blasting Fall Out Boy. He gets down to the street, and he's like, how's it going? And the people who are over here are like, oh, it's good, because they're all on their way somewhere. And then later, this guy is on the street, and he sees the guy who blasts Fall Out Boy all the time. Now, he doesn't know what this guy's face looks like. He's not sure which one is the Fall Out Boy one, but he knows this guy lives upstairs, so he's kind of like, oh, hey, you know. But the Fall Out Boy guy is like, hey, how's it going, neighbor? Because he's like he's oblivious to the fact that he blasts Fall Out Boy as loud as he does. So, then one day, this guy comes and he hears Fall Out Boy one more goddamn time. And so he comes up the stairs and he knocks on the door. He's like, dunk, dunk, dunk. And this guy's like, hello? And then he's like, hey, so I have to be up at 6. Could you maybe just turn that down? And that guy's like, oh, sorry. And so then he turns it down. And so the next day he's doing it again. So he comes up, he's like, dunk, dunk, dunk. Hey, I meant to clarify, I need to be up at 6 every day. Could you not blast that same Fall Out Boy album every single night until 9 p.m.? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. When would you like me to turn it down by? And then that guy's like, I guess 7. And he's like, oh, okay, will do. And then he goes back down, and it was never a problem since then. So then he's just kind of sitting there like, I feel like I was too hard on Fall Out Boy, dude. And he goes over to this guy, because he goes to this guy a lot for emotional support. This guy's pretty quiet, so he goes past this guy's room over to here, and he's like, hey, and he's like, the other guy who's sitting in here is like, oh, hey, man. He was trying to do some knitting, but like, he puts it aside for his buddy, and he's like, hey, how's it going? And the guy who doesn't like Fall Out Boy is like, so I went and knocked on Fall Out Boy guy's door, and the guy's like, oh, how'd it go? And he's like, I think I was too hard on him. I feel like I need to go up there one more time, but if I do, it's going to be awkward. He's like, I don't know, those guys are pretty chill. You should just, like, ask them. And he's like, oh, man. He's like, you should just ask them, like, hey, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings, by the way. It's like, also, I feel like I was backing down on my stance. But then it wasn't an argument. I'm the one who turned it into a conflict. He's like, well, I mean, to be fair, you needed to get sleep. And, everyone knows how it is when you can't get sleep. So he's like, okay, fair enough. And then he goes back over one day. He waits for like a couple of days later because he's like nervous. But then he goes up and he's like, dun, dun, dun. And the guy's like, takes his headphones out because he thought he heard something. And he goes to the door and he's like, oh, hey. And he's kind of like nervous because he's worried the guy's going to like criticize him for another thing. But the guy's like, hey, I just wanted to apologize because I feel like I was a bit rough with my tone in terms of Fall Out Boy stuff. And this guy's like, hey, it's cool. I mean, sorry it was so loud. I didn't realize it was carrying downstairs. And this guy's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I was just, I feel like I was being more angry than necessary. He's like, no, I get it. I know how important sleep is. It's like, yeah, thanks. Anyway, I didn't mean to be a dick. It's like, oh, cool, it's fine. So then he starts to go downstairs. This guy's like, oh, if you ever want to come hang out sometime, we play a lot of Twister. And the guy's thinking to himself, Twister? But he doesn't say, like, it's weird to get invited to Twister by a stranger. So he's like, oh, yeah, thanks, man. And he goes back downstairs. He goes over to here. He's like, how'd it go? And the angry one was like, oh, it went fine. He was really nice about it. And then, like, he's quiet for a second. He's like, that dude invited me to Twister? It's like, you mean the game? Yeah, he invited me to come up and play Twister with his friends. And the guy's kind of quiet for a second. He's like, that's that one where everybody's like touching, right? He's like, yeah. It's like, that's fucking weird. It's like, I know. He invited me to play Twister with his friends. It's like, okay. I mean, no, I won't, but thanks? It's like, what did you say? I just said thanks. It's like, fair. I guess that's all you can say. And then he's walking by. He like knocks on this guy's door. This guy's studying. But he's like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, yo, so I finally went up to talk to Fall Out Boy dude. And it's like, yeah, what's up? It's like, he was really cool, but, and we resolved it. I felt bad that I was being kind of a dick. He's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, but here's the thing though. Like, I went up there and, they invited me to hang out sometime? And he's like, oh, cool, you should. He's like, but they invited me to like play Twister. And he's like, oh, huh. Yeah, I know, right? Like, he's like, I mean, I like that game, but I mean, we don't know any of them, right? Do you know any of them? No, I don't know any of them. All I know is their taste in music, man. It's like, oh, shit. I mean, are you gonna go? No, I'm not gonna. Okay, well, that's cool, I guess. It's like, yeah, it's weird. All right. So then it goes back over here. Meanwhile, this guy, for like 2 days, it's like, should I have invited him to Twist? Is Twister weird? So he goes over to his roommates. He's like, hey, guys. And they're like, yeah, what's up? And they like put down the Twister for a second. And he's like, hey, um, so that guy came up from down, one of the guys from downstairs came up, and I think he lives right below me, and he was like mad that I listen to Fall Out Boy all the time. And they're like, what's wrong with Fall Out Boy? Isn't Fall Out Boy like the best of the best? And he's like, yeah, man, but like, he just was mad that it was loud. They're like, oh, yeah, it's true, you do blast it pretty loud. He's like, yeah, I thought I was cutting it off early, but I guess he has to be up at 6 a.m. They're like, ooh, that's awkward. He's like, yeah, I felt really bad. So anyway, I was like, hey, do you ever want to come up and hang out sometime? And they're like, do you know him? He's like, no, I don't. I just kind of was like, oh, I feel bad. Maybe I'll invite him to hang out. And they were like, oh, okay. But he's like, and then I said, do you want to play Twister? And they're like, but you don't like know him. He's like, yeah, I don't know, it came out. I was like, we play Twister up here. And then one of them's like, you just told him we play Twister up here? They're like, what? Why is it a secret to you? Are you mad that other people know? He's like, I don't know. I mean, we weren't telling people, right? It's like, I mention it to people. It's like, yeah, I also do. It's like, you were telling people that we all played Twister together? Why, is that weird? I mean, we know each other though, right? Yeah, but like, I mean, I don't want people to like know I play Twister. Okay. Um, and then this guy like kind of awkwardly looked at the Twister game on the floor and he was like, but whatever, I mean, it's not like it's like a bad game. So then this guy was like, um, anyway, so I invited the downstairs guy to play Twister, and then he got like this look on his face, and then I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said Twister, I should have said Monopoly, I should have said any other game, why did I have to say Twister? They're like, I don't know, man, he probably doesn't care. It's like, no, what if he does care though? And they're like, even if he does care, I mean, it's not like, I mean, it's not like it matters. I mean, even if he did like come upstairs to try to play Twister with us, I mean, he'd be welcome. I'm always down for a Twister game, right? You know, I know Joel over here is always down for a Twister game, and then Joel was like, I'm not always down for Twister. And they were like, yeah, okay, fine. So then, you know, they went about their business. One day, Joel was, he took the elevator down and he went, for a walk. He was thinking to himself, why does it matter to me so much that nobody knows I play Twister? And he like soul searched about it for a while, and then he couldn't think of anything, so he like went back upstairs and he went to bed. And meanwhile, this guy was like, I hope the guy downstairs doesn't think I'm weird. Meanwhile, the guy downstairs was like, I mean, they're all pretty weird up there, I bet. And he was like discussing it with the others. He's like, they're all so weird up there, I bet. I mean, they're always partying, they're always playing Twister. And then like, it's like, well, you don't know that they're always playing Twister. The family downstairs was like pretty blissfully unaware of all this, but you know, they were kind of blissfully unaware of a lot of the rest of the whole deal, because they didn't have to know that this guy was upset about Fall Out Boy. Sometimes they did try to be extra careful to tell their kids to not be so loud, though, because the kids would be running around and screaming, and they'd be like, hey, shh, quiet, But that was the only thing, really, about their relationship with the rest of the apartment. They're a very neat and clean family. So they didn't, they didn't cause any trouble. Although these guys downstairs could hear the kids, and sometimes they were annoyed. But all that to say, everyone who lived here for um, a decent amount of time because it was a good place to live. And the elevators worked just fine. And from up at the top, the Twister friends could look out at the windows, and this guy could sit here wondering why it was such a huge deal to him that nobody knew that he would play Twister. And this guy was too shy to interact with the upstairs neighbors again because he felt very self-conscious about it. But this guy, he was having a great time because he was never fucking bored of Fall Out Boy. He was never fucking bored of Twister. And he lived on the top floor. They had Christmas lights in their windows. And he knew that he was cool. His name was Jackal because his parents had named him after the animal because they looked in his eyes when he was born and they were like, we knew he was a wild one. That's why we selected the name Jackal ahead of time because we knew he'd be wild. And then he grew up and he was like, yeah, I'm so fucking wild. I listen to Fall Out Boy whenever I want. I play Twister whenever the fuck I want. I'm fucking Jackal, dude. The end. For now.